All right, we are recording. So if you are watching this, welcome to the video. This is the first ever video that I am uploading to my new channel on YouTube that we're just now starting. If you don't know me, I'm Alex Shepard. I'm an entrepreneur, and essentially I just started this channel because there's a ton of important things that need to be talked about right now. Everything from business to politics to the broken education system. We're going to be talking about all of it on this channel. So make sure that you subscribe and make sure that you like the video and make sure that you share the video everywhere, especially this video, because my guest here is a very special guest and his message is very important to get out and share with everyone. I have with me here Jason Bartlett. Jason is from South Africa, and his message is really important and really powerful, and his journey is really inspiring. And I'm really honored to have you on as a guest, Jason. Thank you so much for joining me.
The pleasure is all mine, Alex. Thank you very much for having me as well.
Awesome. So, Jason, just for those people who aren't familiar with you, for those who know nothing about what's going on in South Africa, because as you and I both well know, most people don't know what's going on in South Africa. And we'll dive in why in a little bit, but could you just go ahead and get us up to speed a little bit about what's going on over there, what you're doing, everything about your walk and your story?
It's like 5 minutes, go, right? Okay, so you'll notice everything I do, what I'm doing is actually very morbid and very difficult to do because I've got a relentless attack on me from the American left as well as the South African left, because it all joins in one, which I'm sure we'll discuss shortly. So what I'm actually doing, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and then I'll tell you why I'm doing it, and why it's at such extreme levels. So it was laid on my heart on the 1st of January 2020, to walk from Austin, Texas, the Capitol building, walk all the way 1,557 miles to the White House. I started my walk at 8 a.m. on the 1st of January of this year, 2020, and I walked 1,057 miles, many miracles occurred along the line. I had a GoFundMe up and running, as well as then there was a tornado in Nashville that almost took my life. There was a miracle involved in that as well. And I walked a total of 1,057 miles until this whole scamdemic and this coronavirus that's been pushed by the leftists so harshly and badly that has really collapsed the American economy and the world economy for their political gain. I stopped my walk and I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to Texas for 2 weeks and, wait it out. And then I'm going to come back and continue my walk because I had a support vehicle behind me. However, it turned out that, things were going to get extreme and we were about to all have muzzles put over our faces. And I mean that with the mask, but also social media wise and everything. Little did I know what we're about to experience is one of the worst years in our history of the world because of political gain. And I moved from Texas to Arkansas in those 4 or 5 months that I was waiting so I could actually commence, because I respected the president when he said stay at home for 15 days and so forth. So I stayed home, and I'd lost my job because of my dedication to my cause, and which I'll go into. And then on the 1st of August, I started cycling from Arkansas to the White House. And I've come 1,227 miles in total, even though it's only 1,100 miles. I go like this from camp spot to camp spot. I'm pulling a trailer and I've got a one-man tent that I'm setting up, and I'm going with the intentions to meet the president. I can't go into too much detail about that just because of safety reasons, as well as certain things have to remain silent. Okay, so the reason I am doing it is because there's a full-fledged genocide going on in South Africa. And when I mean genocide, I mean a genocide of the white people. The white people are under attack. And this is not a racist movement. This is nothing about me. I've got black friends. I'm a Christian. I worship the Lord with black people, white people, whatever color they are. I believe that we are all accepted in the kingdom of God. And obviously, people have jumped on the fact that it's all about race, which is blinded. But that's what happens when Satan blinds you, and it is ridiculous what happens. But I'll get into that more with you now. But the reason I'm doing this is our farmers, every single day, if you work it out over the time of a year, every single day, there are 2 brutal farm attacks. There's every six days, a farmer is brutally murdered and tortured. Now, these aren't just normal, I shoot you and you're dead. These are the type of, for example, Willemientjie Potgieter. She was a 2-year-old. Her father was stabbed to death. He was stabbed 151 times. And then they cut up her body after they pangered her to death, which is a big machete. They macheted her to death, and they wrote racial things towards white people with her blood on the walls. Mainstream media says nothing about this. You've got a child that was 12 years old. He was boiled in the bath alive. The infant rape in South Africa is the highest in the world. They often, not often, almost always rape the children, whether they're 1 month old or 2 or 3 months old or 6 years old. They rape them in front of the parents, and then they burn the parents with soldering irons or a normal iron, or they gouge their eyes out, pull their fingernails out. What is happening is absolutely atrocious, and the world is hiding it, and American media is hiding it, because as soon as someone like President Trump says something, he's like, oh, well, you're just standing with a white supremacist. But you know what? It is, I think the whole world is sick and tired of this race card, because it's just a smoke screen, because the whole people driving the race card are white people. It's white liberals, white leftists that are just going around, oh, with this Black Lives Matter and everything. And what they're doing is pure evil, and it is incorrect. In 2018, on the 12th of January, just after I had left to come to America, because I worked on cruise ships and farms, and I've worked because I just wanted to get out of the country. And my cousin was approached at 11 o'clock, where 7 people came to attack him. And they shot him through the back of the head. The bullet came out the front of his eye. He survived. However, they continued to strangle him with fish nylon, burning his body with the grill, and took the grill and threw all the coals out on him and peed on him and did a bit of a dance and said, the white bastard is dead. And then they proceeded to go inside to the house, where they took my 2 little, his daughters, 8 years old and 10 years old, and they beat them up with crowbars, as well as my other cousin, who is married to. They beat her up with a crowbar. And all that gets reported, even though he was shot through the back of the head, is just a home invasion. Now, in 2007, the government stopped making reports about these attacks. There is a full-fledged genocide going on in South Africa. And what I've just described to you is a tiny minuscule of what happens. Just recently, people in our church community, and I'm talking recently, I'm talking the beginning of last month, a 83-year-old and a 73-year-old and a 54-year-old were having a Sunday dinner, because they catch you unawares. And they took them and they bludgeoned them to death and hung them up in trees in public, hung them in trees. And then they took the daughter, cut her breasts off, and they gouged her eyes out and then bashed her head in after torturing and raping her. And this is last month. And nothing gets said about it. Nothing in the American media. But if a meth addict gets killed, yeah, because he has an overdose of meth, named George Floyd or whatever they want to call these people, they become absolute heroes. What about the human race? If they want to play the race card the whole time, what about the human race and the good people that are suffering and being murdered and killed and fear-mongered in South Africa? And that's why I decided, this is why I'm willing to walk 1,000 something miles and cycle 1,000 miles, because the reality is the similarities between America and South Africa are so alike that I need to warn people. It's just, I'm in the prime of my life. I'm 33 years old. I might wake up a little bit more stiff than you, Alex, because you're a bit younger than me. But you know what? My body gets stiff. But you know what? None of the torture and the blisters on my feet and the spider bites from camping and all that, nothing hurts as much as me knowing that my people are being tortured on a daily basis and nobody does anything. So that's why, Alex, I put it on my shoulders just to commence forward and go forward, not only for my people, but also to warn Americans that this is what will happen here. Because look how the little 5-year-old kid gets shot in front of his sister, and they close his GoFundMe account and they just sweep it underneath there. They're like, oh yeah, some guy killed somebody. Just like, you know, Omar says, oh, some people flew into the Twin Towers. It's not some people, it's specific people.
That's exactly right. To give us more context on what's going on in South Africa, what is the demographic like in South Africa? What percentage is white, black, etc.?
So the percentage of whites is approximately 8%, okay? Immigration, people trying to run out of the country has gone up 600% in the last year, 600%. So people are trying to run out. Now, it's not just me saying that, that's the stats saying that.
Right.
People are running to New Zealand, England, China, Australia, wherever they can go, and to America, South America, especially the people that have messaged me. I've received horrific stories from everybody, like, we didn't know where to go, so we're living in Cuba. We can't speak the language, but we had to get out. We needed a place to go. And mostly they are Indians, and they're what we call colored people. They actually call themselves colored, so nobody can throw a race card. They actually call themselves coloreds, and they live in the Cape area and certain areas. I don't know the exact percentages of those. I don't want to just give the wrong ones, but it is mostly black in South Africa. But there is about 3 to 3.5 million white people that do live there.
And so these people who are doing all these things to the white farmers, and now it sounds like not just farmers, right? Just white people in South Africa. How do they justify the actions? What's their reasoning for it?
They actually they don't even talk about it. When President Trump in 2018 tweeted about the farm murders and the killings of white people in South Africa, right, you can just imagine what happened. The whole CNN and all the fake media just went absolutely preposterous, and they're saying this is white bigotry and this is this, and the same story that you see now. Nothing's changed. It's an old race card. And they don't condone it at all. In fact, the previous president stood up and said, we're going to mow them down with machine guns, and they sing songs. The third biggest political party, which is known as the EFF, they sing one bullet, one settler. That's the third biggest political party. Says, we are not calling for the white people just yet. And then he laughs about it. So it's horrific what's going on. And then you've got Black First, Land First, which says they sing songs at all their rallies. White men, they must die. White people, they must die. So they're doing it perfectly well. And they are coming after us. Nobody's hiding it. It's open in the blatant open there. And Cyril Ramaphosa, who is our current president, he goes on to say stuff like this. We're going to put we need to handle the problem of white people. It's like putting a frog in a pot, and you just slowly boil the water, and the frog won't just jump out. He will eventually be cooked to death. That's our current president that says that.
Wow. Now, what I meant by that question, though, is these people, that president, for example, these politicians, and the people actually doing these things to white people, what's their reasoning? What do they have against white people in South Africa?
There's an absolute resentment and a hatred, because not everybody, now you must understand, out of the millions of black people that are there, approximately 60 million, some of them are loving, good people. There's not always the greatest education system, because it's getting poorer and poorer because the politicians are stealing it. But they always blame it on apartheid, even though several hundreds of thousands of people used to flock towards South Africa during apartheid. Now everybody's fleeing away. Even the black people are fleeing away. And what they're doing with this is they're going out and they're spreading hate. That's why the people are hating us. They believe that this lie that white people own 72% of the land, which is a fake statement. It's not real. And what they're trying to do is they're doing what you do. It's a fear tactic. So they don't just murder people; they brutally murder them. Because who wants to stay on a farm? You will notice a lot of the time they leave the woman alive, but they rape and murder the children, and they kill the husband, and they leave the woman alive. And that woman rightfully doesn't want to live on that farm anymore. So forcing them to sell the land back to black people. And that's what the government's plan is. It's a very, very communist regime that's running South Africa. Yes, they might call it a dictatorship, whatever. You can call whatever you want. What it is, it's a communist regime, because they do land claims, and they say, hey, we were here, 400 years ago, which is not the truth. And then they claim the farm and give them no money. Now they want to take their money without any money. They want to take it away and they want to give it to rent it to their own people, which is exactly what communism is. And the white people don't want to sell because they've been there since 1652. They've traded and bartered and bought this land. And a lot of the land was actually uninhabited because the water is like 900 feet deep and they didn't have the technology. We brought the technology, we got the water, and we own these farms. They're in 8, 9, 10 generations are in these families. Now all of a sudden, because they've got this power, they're saying we want the land and we just want it back, because as simple as that, because they're black. And it's instilled such a hatred in these people, Alex, that it's you can see it on the roads. I've had little children, 5, 6 years old, walk up to me and go like this to me. That is not a normal hatred. And what my warning is to America, and I've really told them, is that they're coming after the land next in this country. They're coming after it because they're going to say we want this because there's injustices, because that's all they will say. They don't give facts, but they say there's injustices the whole time. And that's what they're going to go after.
Yeah. And I mean, you already see it with these BLM rallies, these Antifa rallies. They go out and they burn down businesses, many of them, if not the majority of them, black-owned businesses. They burn them down. And then if you say you shouldn't be burning it down, you get called a racist, and they say, well, you care more about property than you do about lives. But anyways, let me ask you this. How did this happen? What led up to this? What was South Africa like before white people were under attack? And what led all of this to happening?
So, Alex, there's always been a lot of extreme violence in South Africa. South Africa it's not a place for people that don't know what violence is. These murders have been around for a very long time. And what sparked it is people coming into power and people like America pushing those people to say, okay, apartheid was wrong. And I agree, apartheid was wrong. I don't agree with it. However, the myths that are going around are absolutely atrocious. You see people on TikTok and Twitter and everything saying, you deserve this for what you did. And I'm like, I'm 33 years old. I was 6.5 years old when apartheid ended. I had no say in this. And my parents weren't involved in it. They were there, but they weren't involved in apartheid. They weren't part of the whole regime. So we just deserve to die. It's just, it's been pushed by the media in America because, as I said, it's the same thing. They've got it linked. And they're saying that because apartheid oppressed the blacks, we must just give everything to them. And actually, you know what? We did give everything to them. Everything was given over. All the wealth was given over. And what did they do with it? They looted and then stolen it because all the people at the bottom, the blacks that are suffering, they are suffering because of their own people. But those people that are in power are multimillionaires, all with offshore accounts. And they're just saying, hey, it was the white people that made you suffer. And because they unfortunately uneducated and live on the social system, which the black president really wants. He wants them to be suffering because then he controls them. Right. It's exactly like Stalin used to do as well. He controls the people. And it's exactly, someone like Nelson Mandela is worshipped as a hero. No, he wasn't worshipped. He's not a hero. He pleaded guilty to 156 counts of public violence, including blowing up people at the Johannesburg train station. So they are hiding communism, and that's why America is supporting South Africa so much. For example, Alex, during the coronavirus, a business can only get funded relief if they are 51% owned by a black partner, which is the BEE, Black Economic Empowerment. For example, I can't go work in the government buildings anymore. There are still white people that work there, but they're in the old positions. And I know several people myself that have been told, okay, you've been here for 35 years now, even though they've got 10 years left and they know what to do, you are strictly being replaced by a black person because he deserves the job. As simple as that. No questions asked, straightforward.
So when you talk about Nelson Mandela, people such as myself, who I grew up in America, I went through the public school system, which is obviously, Marxist, right? The thing is that we are all taught that Nelson Mandela is this hero. I mean, when I heard that Nelson Mandela was a violent criminal. But, you know, I had a lot of cognitive dissonance. Could you dive in a little bit more on Nelson Mandela?
Okay, so
And also, I'm sorry, and also if you could tell me why it is that we don't know any of this real information about him.
okay, the first foremost, I'll answer that last question real quick and go into some details about
Yeah.
him. The reason you don't know anything about the bad side of Nelson Mandela is because he's a communist. He was a communist, and Americans want to push communism, and socialism is just a communist disguise. That's all it is. Because as soon as a socialist comes into power, he's going to become a communist. I know that. I've seen it. It's the way it works. And they are covering it up in order to paint him as a hero and tell the world that, hey, look at South Africa. They're a rainbow nation. Everything works wonderfully because they supported a communist. And it's incorrect and it's a lie. Nelson Mandela, right, was pleaded guilty for 156 crimes. This is including 17 bomb attacks, right, where he would blow up, for example, the Johannesburg train station, killing several women and children in this blow up. Okay, now you get people saying, oh, but he was just being oppressed. No, he wasn't being oppressed. In 1961 in Algeria, he was trained by the jihads as well in terrorism. He was the biggest fan of Stalin. Do you know about Stalin? I mean, you probably taught in your school system that he was half bad, but you know, there was a couple of good things. No, there wasn't a couple of good things.
Right.
But I was actually going to ask you this. I'm so glad you went into it. And did you know that he was on the FBI's watch list, terror watch list, until 2008? Ask yourself, as a critical thinker, how do you go from 2008, right? Not apartheid ended in 2004, in 1994. How do you only in 2008 go from zero communist to all of a sudden you this hero for the world and you this speech person? For goodness sakes, the guy could hardly speak proper English. You know, there are people that went to go and pray for him. I know the person personally who asked him, like, listen, Mr. Mandela, can we pray for you? And he chased them away. He's like, no, you can't pray for me. His wife, Winnie Mandela, was known for necklacing. Do you know what necklacing is?
Well, I heard you say it on an interview earlier, but go ahead and tell us.
Yeah. So what they do is, what she started, she basically invented necklacing, is if someone disagreed with their communist movement and communist values, they would physically take them and put a car tire around their shoulders, just around their arms over here, pour it full of diesel and light it in public, in front of little children, mostly in front of black people, in the townships, and they would burn them alive as a fear tactic. And she did this. She did it on public TV. You can probably go look around. In 1986, she did this. It's absolutely atrocious that people are worshiping these people. They are communist, and they are just absolutely evil in what they're doing. And it's just about time. I made a video about it today, actually, and it's been around there. And there's people from America like, I'm 58 years old. You know, is this really true? And I'm like, yes, it is really true. Why was he in jail for so many years? And all of a sudden, he's got this real long walk to freedom? No, he didn't have a real long walk to freedom. I'm trying to walk all the way for freedom and cycle for freedom. So it's just someone that's been taken. It's like a George Floyd. That's exactly what it is. You want to see it? It's the George Floyd of 20 years ago. That's who Nelson Mandela was. It's a criminal and a terrorist that fits their agenda, and he's the right color, and they're just going to push him up and say, hey, here we go. You know, we're going to worship this guy, and we control the media, and we're just going to go after it the whole time and bang at it. And, you know, they were successful because these people work together because they serve the Father and the Father of lies.
That's exactly right. And, wow. So leading up to this, though, I mean, specifically, what is it that, let me give an example. You said that there's a media outlet that hasn't reported an attack on a farm invasion since 2007. Is that right?
So no, the government, not media, the government stopped keeping statistics from 2007.
Gotcha. So, but the media is in on this great lie, the mainstream media, right?
Yes.
It's being censored on social media.
Yep.
And what I've observed going on in the United States, for example, is these communists, these Marxists, don't just control those things, they also control the public schooling here. They control the colleges here. They have very powerful celebrities that represent them and push agendas. You see it with all of them looking to, I mean, they're promoting the Minnesota Freedom Fund. There were countless celebrities which promoted the Minnesota Freedom Fund, which is bailing out violent criminals. They then go back out in the streets and commit these crimes. In the sciences, you know, I know a lot of real scientists who know what's actually going on with this pandemic, right? Let me ask you, are all of those institutions were they infiltrated in South Africa the way that they are here in America?
Yes, our school system is completely corrupt. And, you know, Alex, it's a very good question, because you got to ask yourself, why would they be silencing me? Okay, I'm 33 years old. Apartheid ended 26, 27 years ago almost, right? I have seen what communism and Marxism and socialism and everything does to a country. So they know I'm not listening to a story that my grandfather told me or someone told me.
Right.
They worried and scared about me because I've seen it with my own eyes. And I was fortunate enough to be in a little farm school, so I was educated correctly. However, the school next to us in the town, we actually saw when I was, you know, 13, 14, how dramatically it changed. And the school system is one of the worst. Yeah, the schooling system in South Africa is, of course, kaput. It's just a null and void now. And it is very similar to the American system. Of course, you got some private schools that are good, and it
Sure.
depends a lot on the teachers. But you look at what these teachers are being forced to teach the children. They are indoctrinating our children, and that's why I've got such a strong passion just to warn the children as well, because they think, and I mean, even people your age, Alex, they've been taught such lies and indoctrinated. But you remember, like Nancy Pelosi, right? And the celebrities and everything, all they do is they say, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. They say it so many times that not only do they believe it, but a lot of the public believes it. And yes, so they have infiltrated the universities, they've infiltrated the social media, they've infiltrated the actual media itself in the towns. I mean, they would rather report something that's in Cape Town that's a little bit racist, and this actually is a true story. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with H&M, and there was a little black kid that had a shirt on that in the advertisement that said the coolest monkey in town. You know,
yeah, a few years ago, right?
yes, it was a cool shirt, right? And they went absolutely ballistic, throwing stuff and trying to burn the building down. You know, it's racist. But they said nothing about the 2-month-old baby that was raped by 4 people around the corner on the same day as that. They said nothing about that because it doesn't fit their agenda. So yes, that's what my message is to Americans, is that if you want to see what's going on in South Africa, if you want to see what's going on in America in a few years' time, go look at South Africa, because it deteriorates quickly. Do you think that we were in January, if I told you all these people are going to go to Walmart and everyone are going to be wearing masks, would you believe me? No, it happens like this. I didn't think it was going to be this quick, but it is upon us. And like they're calling for violence, like Kamala Harris and CNN, they are calling for people to be violent. Even after the elections, they wanted to be violent. So if Trump doesn't win, they're still going to be violent. So they are literally calling for division, and they've made it about race. And it's so sad, because people actually can get along. However, they've taken it now and they're physically trying to divide us. And they're now taking where the capital is and the people that work hard and the good families, and they're attacking them. They have attacked our masculinity. They've deprived us of our values. They've taken the families apart. And what they want to do is they've demasculated the men, they've pushed the women up, and now they've said to the kids, okay, cool, listen here, your parents are all haywire. We as a government, we will look after you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And, you know, you look at things like the Black community in the United States of America, over 70% of Black children are born to single Black women in the United States. And under Lyndon B. Johnson, and I'm sure you already know all this stuff, but for those of you who don't know, under Lyndon B. Johnson, they passed the War on Poverty, and what they did is they gave all these single mothers welfare checks, and they said, you can get this money as long as you don't have a father in the home. We are going to replace the father with Big Daddy government, and that's exactly right. And now you look at Black Lives Matter, which from the start, before all this George Floyd stuff happened, I already knew because, I discovered you on Jesse Lee Peterson's show, and he woke me up to a lot of this stuff, that they are a communist organization. And you go to their website, it says that they want to disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure. And it also says things such as, we want to take the kids and we want to build communities. And it says we want to support mothers in these communities. And it says nothing about the fathers. So you're exactly right. There is a war on masculinity, 110%. Can you give us some examples of how what that war on masculinity looked like in South Africa?
So, okay, so there's a commonality, and I'm sure I'll get into it as I go, but as just thinking off the bat there, the commonality, what I want to express to South Africa, from South Africa and to America and bring it together is, my whole life, I realized people were starting to say, one day when it gets bad, we're going to stand up. One day we're going to stand up, and one day we're going to do something. And it would mostly be at church, maybe at a bar, maybe at a social gathering. And eventually you start seeing like, okay, but nobody's standing up. So I ask myself, why aren't they standing up? And what they've done is, and I know this might offend some people, but it doesn't matter because it's biblically correct. And that to me is the nothing but the truth. So they've taken and they've divided the family by, first of all, putting the woman against the man and not saying to the woman, you are equal to the man. You are actually greater than the man.
Yep.
You are actually better than him. So you need to, when you get divorced, you'll get the child, no questions asked, because you're the woman, you're the mother, we don't have to ask any questions. Right. And then what automatically happens is, okay, well, the child's going to defend himself and take the mother's side because she's more compassionate and works more on emotions, which is just a given fact. Right. And the rationality of the man is going to be attacked, where she says, okay, no, but that's not fair. And then the world stands up and says, yeah, no, you're just oppressing women. Right. And that's the nuclear family. It's this, it's the way and then they try manipulate us with our own Bible. And that's where I start getting a little bit angry when people say, yes, but everybody was created in the eyes of the Lord. It actually doesn't say that. It says that man was created in the image of the Lord and woman was created in the image of man. Okay, you've got to read that. There's an umbrella. A man's got a duty to look after his wife. Now they've said, okay, a woman can get any job she wants, and I agree with that. That's lovely. I think it's great. But now, when a woman goes out and gets a job, you must remember it's not just about her. If she's got a family, someone is going to be paying a little bit of a price. So the man feels inferior. Okay, yes, we've got egos. It is what it is. With the way we created. Now we feel inferior to the woman, but we don't mind. Let's say I'm at home. I'll look after the child. That's fine. But now the wife comes back and says, okay, cool, I feel that we should be doing this with the child. And the man's got no say because the legal system is going to say, no, the woman's got all the say. And she doesn't really necessarily want that. But now she's found herself in that position. So why do you think the opioid crisis and the mothers that are alcoholics, the mothers that are addicted to heroin, to pills, because heroin's cheaper than the medication, and they're all unhappy. And what can the man do? He's been demasculated so much that he just sits there. It's like, well, I'm not allowed to do anything. The woman's always right. You know the jokes? Yeah, the woman's always right. The woman's always right. So it's been instilled through us through videos and through movies and through social media that no men, sorry to say, but have the balls to stand up and actually say or do something anymore and say, enough is enough. My son will not have his penis chopped off when he's 9 years old because he's not thinking. And you know what? Just because he can play on the woman's emotions doesn't mean he can play on the man's emotions. And I'm all for women's rights and I'm all for men's rights, but women's rights should not be more than men's rights. And the LGBTQ, whatever they want to be, this is the most equal country in the world. How can they say they want more rights than a single white male, for example? Just because I'm a white straight Christian and I'm a male and I identify as a male the way I was created doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make me a bigot. It doesn't make me a racist. And everything that you do, you take a look at the adverts that you see, right? Advertisements are very key to demasculating men.
Right.
First of all, you'll see it's an interracial, so they just want to make sure that everyone's interracial every time, every advert, interracial. Otherwise, it's just a racist advert. And whenever the man stands up and says something, hey, let's go have pizza, the wife will turn around and the children will be like, oh, no, we don't want pizza. We want Applebee's, for example. You know, every little tiny thing is just against the man. And that's why I'm looking forward to doing what I am, because I'm going to stand up as a man and say, you know what? There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Exactly. I'm not here to bully anybody. I'm not here to oppress anybody. But I am here to say, you know what? I have my God-given right to be who I am. And you're not going to throw some stupid little race card at me or say to me that I've got no say, because I do have a say. And the nuclear family is extremely important, and it's extremely biblical and spiritual. And that's why these Black Lives Matter people are attacking it and trying to devour it. They've pushed women into a position that they actually don't want to be. Yes, they can handle it. They're great. You can see some of the leaders are awesome. But you know what? Not all of them want that. So not all of them should have to be that. And they should also stop shaming women that also want to raise children and actually nurture children and have 5 kids and be joyful and be glad. You know, they want that. They actually, and there's nothing wrong with it. I actually praise a woman that is like that, because it takes more guts to do that than it does to put on a tight dress and show some cleavage and walk into a business place and say, hey, I'm going to take this by storm now because I've got more rights than a man. Sorry, I went off on a bit of a rant there, but you know.
Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. With what is happening is they are using identity politics, and this is what Marxists do, is they use identity politics to pin Black people against white people, to pin women against the man. And you look at it, I mean, the only I keep saying this, I want people to know this, the only purpose for identity politics is to divide and conquer. That's it. And you look at the terms like toxic masculinity. We don't hear anything about toxic femininity because women are just perfect. You hear terms like misogyny. I don't know anything like that used for women. They changed racism in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, if I'm not mistaken, to imply that you need power to be racist. And of course, Black people, even if they own everything, they never have the power because they were enslaved 400 years ago. So yeah.
A quick little fact for you. You know, 1 in 3 women suffer abuse from their husbands, right? Or their partners. Did you know that 1 in 4 men suffer abuse from their partners as well?
I did not.
In 2016, there was 2,000 centers around America, state-funded centers, right? State-funded centers for women that are abused. Do you know how many men, accepted men?
How many?
1. Out of 2,000, only 1. And who do you think pays tax? I mean, at least 50% of the state tax comes from men. However, there's only 1 that accepts men out of 2,000, and 1 in 4 men are actually physically or emotionally abused by women. See, people need to start waking up and start realizing you've been attacked because your kids aren't allowed to be, you know, they're not allowed to be men anymore. They're not allowed to be men, but when you know, like in Texas, when they go and the penis is going to be removed of this little 10-year-old boy, he's praised and he's worshipped. His brain is not fully functional yet, my friend. He's not even developed yet. Now, he's been told by his mother he's going to be a great little girl and he's feeling like a girl. You know what? That's hedonism. And feelings aren't always real, because you know what makes me feel good? An ice cream makes me feel good. Oh, should I stop being a man because I like an ice cream? And it's just absolutely ridiculous what's happening up here.
Yeah. Now, back to South Africa, because I think now, you know, for everyone who's watching, we've drawn a lot of parallels from what has happened and is happening in South Africa and what has been stirring up and is now starting to really take place in America. Let me ask you, for the people who are attacking these white farmers, do they have Because, for example, in the United States, we have a lot of Christians who are liberals who support Black Lives Matter, who support Antifa, who support the destruction of the nuclear family, but they call themselves Christians, and frankly, they may even have a majority of the churches in the United States. Is there a religion of these people who are violently attacking men and white men specifically?
So, man, you're really pushing on a nerve when you're talking about these Christians that support Black Lives Matters and in the church. First and foremost, when Christ comes and he reveals himself, and you know that he's going to start at the church, and there's many of these churches that I take on flat out. I've stood up in some churches and I've stated, hey, what you're preaching is incorrect and wrong and hedonism, and it's not Christianity. So don't be fooled and don't be disheartened, because Christ has already overcome the world. And these churches can continue to preach the word, because the Lord will also use their fakeness to bring people to Christ, and hopefully they will actually know that, one day we'll wake up when we start reading the Bible. And I don't agree with most of those mega churches are really, really gone extremely backwards. And if you as a Christian, support Black Lives Matter and Antifa, you need to honestly go back onto your knees and repent, because what you are doing is sinful. So the beliefs in South Africa, there's a big Black Christian community, which are great people, and I praise them, because it's difficult, especially amongst their own color people, because in South Africa there's a lot, including the president. They surround themselves what you call a sangoma. A sangoma is a witch doctor. So it's about religions. There's good and there's evil. There's no in between, and what they do is very evil. So a lot of the farm attackers, because they're Katie Hopkins and Lawrence Southern, you can check on my website. These people have got a long documentaries, and they've actually spoken to some of these farm murderers. What they do is they go to these sangomas and they ask them what's the time, and they please put a spell on them, and they do dances, and they also take like little parts of human babies, and they give them and trade them for what we call muti. There is like, if you've got a stomach bug, you drink some muti, so it's like a little medicine where they will take a leg of a little white or black kid that they chopped off that's 1 month old, and they'll trade that for some information. They take it to witch doctors, and these witch doctors help people like the president. He's got his own witch doctors that he gets his support and advice from. So it's very, very satanic what's going on there, and demonic. Yes, they actually support full witchcraft. That's the direct translation, is a sangoma is a witch doctor. So you can just imagine the brutality that goes in there. For example, they not only take baby parts, because I know a lot of abortion here in America, so a lot of people are softened by abortion, but try think about it, that they take the guts or the parts of little infants, and they trade them out for information, and they tell them to cook it and do dances and worship and praise and all those type of things that they do with these parts. But they also cut the paws of lions. They also cut parts of women. They cut the snouts of lions, and they boil this with children, and it's just absolutely atrocious. But nobody says anything about the animals. Nobody says anything about the children. It's barbaric. And something that really sparked my interest today is where I'm cycling right now is in Virginia. I came across the first Amish people I've ever met. So I needed some water, and I know a little bit, like I'm not that clever with the Amish people, but I know that they believe in Christ and so forth. So I turned around and I took my hats off, and I tried to approach really respectfully, and I said, do you mind if I ask you for some water? Man, the whole family came out, and they started talking I got goosebumps, because it's some of the nicest people I've ever met. And they call themselves very plain people. And we got into speaking about all this, and I asked them, okay, cool. Now you've asked me questions without me insulting you. Do you mind if I ask some questions? Because I've been raised, in a little shell when it comes to Amish people. And he said, please ask away. And I asked my questions, and we ended on something. And I said, what do you think about the current climate in America? And he says the current climate in America concerns him, and this is all, it's entwined with the witchcraft, and you can see Billie Eilish and all these people, how evil they've got with the numbers, and and just the signs. I mean, look at Black Lives Matter and look at all these little signs that are all over. They're so evil. And they like idolizing signs and worshiping them. And I asked him, what is your personal take? And he just says, he'll pray for the president, whether it's Biden or whether it's Trump, he'll pray for him regardless. And I do the same. I used to pray for Obama. I prayed for his wisdom, for his protection, because he was put there for a specific reason. And the same with Trump as well. He's been put there for a specific reason. And I asked him now, and his answer was, there's something very, very different. And this is someone that hasn't got a cell phone and hasn't got a television. He only reads the newspaper once a week, he states. And he says there's something very spiritual and very scary that's going on in South Africa, in America at this moment. And he says it's definitely different than from all other moments, because it doesn't look like people are against Christians and against, the whites and against whatever's Christian, basically, the nuclear family. It's that they're actually standing for something else now.
Yeah.
They're actually worshiping something else now, and something else is leading them. Now, I know the answer to that. I don't know what your religion is and your faith is. I'm a devout Christian, a very biblical Christian as well. I come across stoners because I've been sick and tired of people manipulating the Bible when they don't know the Bible. And if you're going to manipulate me with the Bible, you better come prepared, because I will keep quiet and I will study it and I will come back at you and tell you you're wrong or you're right. And it just brought up something that's so key. It's like they're not just against Christians. They are now standing for someone, a higher power, because they've got a lot of hate and a lot of resentment, and they are coming with that power. So it really is interesting times and scary times in America.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I said this the other day, I posted this on Facebook. What we've done is we've taken, with the move for, we disguised it as equality of, freedom of religion. We took God out of the schools, and what we did is we replaced him with Satan. And this is coming from someone. I went to the public schools, and I was in a few college classes, and I got out because I saw what they were doing to people, and what they're doing to a lot of people my age who are in college. That's exactly right. It is despicable what's being taught. So let me ask you, the Black people who stand for what's right in South Africa, maybe they're Christian, maybe they're not, but the ones who say this government is terrible, these crimes are terrible, which I'm sure there's plenty of those people in South Africa, right?
Of course.
What's it like for them? How are they treated? How are they perceived by people, by the media?
Well, first and foremost, they are completely cancelled out by the media. You don't see them because it completely goes against the agenda of the left. And they are extremely scared, Alex. They're extremely scared because, you imagine the people that go and cut breasts of people and gouge people's eyes out. They do this in parties of between 4 and 20. And for one man to do something like that, you can almost understand it and comprehend it. But the fact that 5 men can stand around and rape one 80-year-old woman, you got to start asking questions. Something else is involved there. And if they can cut up children, imagine what they're going to do to a traitor, someone that's turning on them and turning on their little gods and turning on their demons and stuff like that. So they are just completely annihilated, and the people are scared, but they are starting to talk. I can see all over social media, but what happens to them? They just get censored. It's like I've got several Black friends here in America that are standing up for Trump, and they're standing up for freedoms, and what happens to them? Their Facebook accounts get closed. They get called a racist. They get called they're not Africans. They're not. I mean, like, come on, really?
Yeah.
So yes, the people are very scared. I will be honest. They're very scared, the people that are trying to stand up for it, because a lot of them realize that what's going on is not right. A lot of them realize. But, who gets the worship is the people who are actually doing the killing.
Right. Is there, because I know in America, those people are often called a coon, an Uncle Tom, a sellout. Is there like a word like that they use in South Africa?
there is a word, it's from the Quran. I mean, I won't even say it just due to the fact that people will just come on and try and snip it. You can go, it's the word for an ungodly person. You can go and take a look on, it's actually from a Muslim word. It starts with a K. It's not a very nice word at all. I don't like to use it myself because I don't think it's fair. And it's a very hated word.
Right.
So yeah, you can go look that up.
So
my cell phone has just said I've got 10%. So if it goes flat, I'm sorry, man. If it disappears, I don't have anything to charge it with or anything like that. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. I've just got a couple more questions for you, and then we can wrap up. Again, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure. Let me ask you this. The political party that's in power, the president of South Africa, I know the Democrats, they don't just pin black people against white people, right? They also, like we talked about with identity politics, women versus men. What are some things, I mean, do they try to pin women versus men with this political party, and how do they do it?
Oh man, that's a bit of a tough question for me right now. Well, it's with the woman part, it's very different because they tend to keep quiet about it because women in the black culture don't have much say at all in Africa. You got to realize that, yes, they do a lot of the hard work in that, but they listen to the man, and the man overpowers them,
Gotcha.
in a very severe way, because a man
they don't really have rights over there like they have here at all.
No, they don't, because every 26 seconds a woman is raped in South Africa, yet you don't hear the Me Too movement saying anything about that, right? I mean, every three hours a woman is murdered in South Africa. You don't hear anything about that, right?
Right.
So it's absolutely it's horrific what is happening there. But the last president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, he had 19 wives. So it's very difficult to pinpoint that one because they don't really regard women much. And also, once again, nobody says anything about that because it's a black guy, so he can do and say whatever he wants to women, right?
Yeah, right. So, okay, a couple more questions. What is your advice to Americans right now who are seeing all this, who are starting to wake up and realize what is going on in America, all these lies, all these scams? What's your advice to Americans right now?
So my advice to Americans, and I hope there's a lot of people that are not Trump supporters that watch this. My advice is this. You need to get up and start saying something, and the time has come now where you have to vote. So first of all, I'm encouraging you to vote, and it's not about Trump and Biden. It's not about Republicans and Democrats. If the Democrats had a good party and a solid, good foundation, by all means vote for them. But the problem is it's these specific Democrats. They are communist and socialistic, and they need to be cleaned out. That swamp needs to be drained. Right now, you need to start saying to yourself, do I want my freedoms, my gun laws, my First Amendment, my Second Amendment, and so forth? Do I want that? Or do I want drastic change where the government is going to control me and make me wear a mask? So get up and go and vote. Yes, if it is for Trump and you might not like him, I know he's not perfect. He's created, he's a human, and he makes mistakes. I understand that. But he is at least trying to fight for your freedoms. So you need to start, I would honestly advise getting up and going to go and vote for him. And then start standing your ground in your churches, in your community. Get up and start saying something because it's a natural reaction. Newton's law is like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So you got people burning and rioting and going crazy for all these communists. Now it's time to stand up and say, okay, we'll protest, but we'll protest peacefully. Because they can silence me and they can silence you, but they can't silence all of us. So actually get up and physically go out and stand your ground and say, hey, this is not right what you're doing. Take your kids out from school, stop letting them being indoctrinated, and start today. Because it's not about what's going to happen. It's about what's already happened and what is happening. So go out and vote. Even if you don't like the current president, I would rather promote you voting for him instead of voting for Biden, because look how they just accept pedophilia. They accept him touching little children. They're accepting communism. They're accepting these sex changes under the age of 10. I mean, they're teaching children about anal sex at the age of 6 and 8 years old in Austin, Texas. Come on, man. That is incorrect and it is wrong. So stand up for the family, and especially men. Stop being demasculated. Stand up and say, I will not be demasculated. I will not oppress my wife, but I will stand up for my wife, and I will stand up for my son, and I will stand up for my daughter, and I will be a man the way God created me, and I will not be perverted, and I will not be put down. I will stand up and I'll stand my ground. You know what? Because it's rather defend your freedoms and die defending your freedoms than get taken and let your kids be raped emotionally and mentally and physically at the end of the day, because that's what's going to happen. This is a very, very key time, and I don't say that lightly. I've seen it with my own eyes. You need to get out there and go vote for what you believe in. Do you believe in pedophiles and communists, or do you believe in Trump that is actually standing up for the rights and your First Amendment rights and your Second Amendment rights and all your rights to actually have a capitalist and have a building and have a business that can start? Come on, man. It's really just time to get up and say no to the evils that are happening here. So in other words, what I want to say is man up. Even the women, man up. Say, hey, this is rubbish. I'm not going to support this stuff. I'm going to stand against it, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to vote because you can vote. Women have fought hard for a vote, and they've got that vote. Now they need to make that vote count, and they need to know that they are not voting for a racist and a bigot like they're telling you, because that's all they're honing in. Have you noticed that's all they've got is a race card? All they've got is a race card, race card, race card, race card. Enough is enough. There's no more thing like this. Just, it's ridiculous. Get it out and stand up for your freedoms. That's my advice.
Yeah, and I'm telling people the exact same thing, because right now we have enough decent people in America that I do think that there's a great chance that Trump gets reelected. I think it's very, very, very likely, unless Democrats do what they're trying to do with this mail-in voting, right? But what really needs to happen is we need to take back control of the Christians, especially need to take back control of the school system. They need to take back control of public school, colleges, the mainstream media. We need to get good Christian doctors high up in the sciences, because these people, very powerful people, very sick people, are in charge, and they're corrupting our youth. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we're not going to have enough good Americans left to save our country. So I agree with you 100%. It is time for people to speak up, and that's why we're having you here today. So thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. And again, what you're doing is really inspiring. And I really hope a lot of people can wake up to what's going on. Just last thing here, how can people support you? How can people get involved and help with what you're doing?
Okay, so first and foremost, just a quick one real quick. I know my phone's going to go flat, but they actually closed my GoFundMe account yesterday. So I've got no more GoFundMe account because a whole lot of people reported it and stuff like that, because, you know, I'm a bigot and a racist and same old story the whole time, and they always win that type of little. So the best part is I've got a Venmo account. If you want to donate to me, contact me via my website, which is Boer Extinction. It's BOER extinction.org. I'm sure you'll put it in the video. And also you can actually just send me a message, and I'm almost at my destination. I do need to raise a bit of funds to rent a car to drive all the way back to Arkansas. I'll be dropping on Memphis. If you can accommodate me in any shape and form, but mostly just keep me in your prayers and let people know what's going on. Spread awareness, send this video around. Just let them know it's time to stand up for freedom, and there's atrocities in South Africa. And do yourself a favor, go look past Google and Google what's really going on in South Africa. Go look at my Twitter account, go look at my website, go and look at the atrocities that are happening. Sorry, I'm tired. That are actually happening in the country, and just say, do you want that, or do you want your freedoms? And it's a mirror image of what America is going to be if you don't stand up. So go there, spread the awareness about South Africa, and start to realize the reason you should worry about South Africa is because that is what the communists and the socialists want for America in the future. So put those two together. And thanks for your support, Alex. It's been wonderful to be on your show, and I know it's going to be a success. So make sure that people spread it around and to spread awareness.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. Again, guys, make sure you check out his website, boerextinction.com, BOER extinction.com, .org, excuse me. Also check out his Twitter at Buffalo Bartlett, BARTLETT, right?
Yes, sir.
At Buffalo Bartlett. I'm going to link everything in the description. Make sure you go follow him. Look at what's really happening in South Africa and support him. Donate to him. Thank you once again, Jason. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you like the video. Make sure you comment on the video. Share it with everybody. We want to get his message out there because we want to get him his initial reason for coming to the United States. He wants to meet with President Trump, and he wants to make sure that he can end the terrible things that are happening to his family, to his friends over there in South Africa. So we need to get the word out. Make sure you share the video. If you want more videos like this and about other things like business and the education system, etc., then make sure you hit the subscribe button. Other than that, have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll talk soon.